What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Fools Get Clean too. Today's guest is Kenny Tindal, and he's going to go ahead and share his comeback story with us. So, Kenny, how was it growing up for you?
Growing up was good, man. I grew up in New York. I grew up in Queens. Actually, in the Bronx first, until I was about 11 years old, and then my parents moved us out of the projects in the Bronx to a house in Queens, which was kind of like a culture shock for me. I guess like when you grew up in the projects, all you know that is that
Yeah.
until a certain age, and then all of a sudden they took us out of that and they bought a house out in Hollis, Queens, and it was good, man. I had a 2 parent household, man. It was both my parents and my older brother. They both worked. My dad worked for the transit authority. My mom worked in private advertising, and it was a good upbringing, man. I really can't complain, man. It I guess I started to learn things when I got to Queens more so than the Bronx, because in the Bronx I was only there till I was about 11 years old. And then we got to Queens, and then I got to junior high, and that's when things started to get a little bit real,
Yeah.
right? You know how you got your stick up kids and your bullies and all this other kind of stuff. So we started learning about all of that and how to like try to like stick together, as a little crew that we had from where we were from and whatnot. But junior high school was good, man. And going into high school, I just didn't really connect with people. You know what I mean? I always felt like an outcast, right? And I guess that's kind of like where it started for me. Just not feeling like I was a part of, um, and that kind of led to me leaving high school early. I did that. I did my ninth grade year, and by the time I got to my 10th grade year, I hadn't even accomplished anything in my freshman year. So I hadn't really done any of the work. So they were trying to leave me back a grade, from my freshman year and not go to my sophomore year. And I was like, well, the hell with it. I'm just not going to school.
Just dropped out.
Yeah, I just dropped out. But my parents didn't know I dropped out. They didn't know I dropped out until my junior year. I kind of like hid that from them. And then by the time I got to my junior year and it was about time to, go into my senior year, when they thought that I was going to be graduating, I was like, I haven't been going to school.
No
Man.
way. What did they
Yeah,
say?
yeah. They were upset, but I had already had a plan. I told them, look, I'm going to get my GED, and they were like, okay, no problem. And I got my GED probably like the year after I was supposed to graduate. I was supposed to graduate in '85. I got my GED in '86. But by that time, man, I had already started using, man. I started using at an early age.
What did you start with?
I started with alcohol when I was probably like, I think I probably had my first drink when I was like 7 or 8, but I didn't get drunk or anything. My aunt used to have these parties, and they used to put me and the kids, my cousins, in the back room, and we used to watch wrestling,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And then when they all left, we would come out there, and there would still be like little bits of alcohol in the glass and stuff like that, and we would take little sips of it. But I picked up my first joint at age 11, and then I didn't do anything until I was 14. I didn't do anything for another 3 years. But when I started back at 14, like the progression for me, the disease, and I know this now, I didn't know this back then, but the progression started, like I smoked that joint at 11, and then I didn't do anything until I was 14. But when I started back up at 14, boom, I was right back in it. I started smoking weed again. I started drinking. I started feeling what it felt like to get drunk, right? And that's kind of like where it took off for me. It went from there to mescaline tabs and all different types of alcohol, all different types of weed, because there was different strains of weed even back then. You know what I mean? Um, and then by the time I was 17, my drug of choice kind of took off. The cocaine kind of took off at 17. And then, like I said, I was supposed to graduate in '85, but by the time I was supposed to graduate, man, the crack epidemic had hit New York so hard. It went literally overnight. One day it was powdered, and the next day everything was rocks.
Yeah.
And it was just like that. And not knowing any better, the drug dealers were like, "Hey, you can still sprinkle it in weed and smoke it, because that's
Yeah.
how we used to do.
Yeah.
We started off with woolers. That's what we call them.
Yeah,
Some people call them coolies,
Yeah, we
or
call them P-dogs.
P-dogs. Okay, yeah. So we started off smoking those, man, and yeah, man, it was it was on from there, bro. You know, and like I said, one day it was powder, next day everywhere was just impacted with nothing but crack cocaine, man.
How did drug use affect your life at that age?
Um, well, I think I definitely know that was a part of me not graduating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once I started drinking and smoking on a regular basis, that's all I really wanted to do. I had no, I mean, my thing was go to the video arcade and go collect comic books and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But then by the time I turned 17, 18, you know, it was different, man, because I had a different kind of monkey on my back, right? And even back then, I didn't know anything about the disease of addiction. I didn't know what I was going through. I just felt like, damn, this shit got me in a kind of way, and I don't understand why I'm chasing it like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the disease, man, and yeah, man, and then you know, it started going into, you know, selling weed, and then from there I started selling the harder stuff, and a lot of it was just basically to support my habit.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Um, and that's pretty much how that started to happen, and then I at around 20, it got so bad that like I had to leave my house, and I was running through the streets doing all this crazy shit. And then I decided to go to the military. I was like, I got to do something. I was like, I can't just stay running the streets.
Yeah.
Um, so I decided to sign up for the military. I went into the Army. Um, and that lasted short because I was in the Army Reserves. So I came home. I went to basic training, and I went to advanced individual training in the Army. And then I came back home for a leave, and during that leave was when I picked back up the drug of choice, and that's when it took off. Like the progression was insane,
Yeah.
right? And I never went back to the military. Like I just kind of absconded, you know, from the military.
Is there like a dishonorable discharge?
No, I actually got an honorable. I actually still got an honorable discharge. Because I did go back to them, because what happened was that when I came home, about 30 days, literally about 30 days after I came home, I got arrested and caught my first felony.
Oh man.
Yeah. So what happened was that people might know the story, and if they don't, I'll talk about it a little bit. In Queens, there was a bunch of really big drug crews, you know, real big drug organizations, and one of the guys from one of those drug organizations put a hit out on a cop,
Okay.
and the cop got killed sitting in a car in front of a homeowner's home who was complaining about the drugs on their block. And they set this cop up, and they shot him up in his car, and they killed him. So that created what they call the TNT squad, which is the tactical narcotics team.
Yeah.
If you've ever been arrested by any kind of jump out boys or any kind of tactical narcotics team, you can thank Queens, New York for that, because that's where it started from. And I got swept up in one of those first initial raids. I got caught selling to an undercover. I got caught with a whole bunch of crack on me, and I got locked up for it. Luckily, I didn't do much time. I went to Rikers Island. I did about 6 months. I came home. I was on probation for a little bit of time. And when I came home, you know how you go through those phases of abstinence. Like, okay, this got me locked up. It did all this crazy stuff to me. I'm not doing that no more. I'm just going to drink and smoke weed. Right? We go back to that kind of substitution attitude and rationalize it. Right? Exactly. So I did that. You know, and it was weird, right? Because when I came home, I ended up going to college, right? And I started doing some things in life, right? But I was still drinking and smoking on a regular basis, right? And thinking like, okay, as long as I can put that down, I can do these things over here, right? Because these things are not what got me locked up or what got me, you know, running the streets and going crazy. So
how was it your first time being incarcerated? How was that?
Oh man, I never had anybody teach me. I didn't have anybody in my family that was like, yo, you're going to go to prison one day, or you're going to, like, this is how you survive. I had to learn it all by myself. I had to learn it all by myself. I got to Rikers Island. an Asian dude gave me my first shank when I got there, and he was like, "Yo, you're gonna need one of these, bro." So I got one, and I pretty much just learned my way, man. You know, I mean, of course, I had heard in the streets like, if you ever do go to jail, don't let nobody take shit from you.
Yeah.
That's the first rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If you got to fight and get your ass whipped, at least you fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that was the first rule, and I always remembered that. And I went in there with that attitude. You know,
is there something that sticks out to you from that first time you were busted?
Sticks out as far as what?
Like a memory, like something crazy that happened in there?
Oh yeah. When I first, because when you go to Rikers Island, well, when I went there, they had these dorms called 5 main and 6 main, where everybody had to go to. They were like processing dorms.
Yeah.
So everybody had to go through there, and you had all the bullies in there that didn't want to work. They didn't want any jail jobs. They wanted to rob everybody that came through the door.
Okay.
So if you came through the door and you had on some fresh sneakers, and back then you could wear your jewelry and stuff like that. I had gold teeth in my mouth and all that kind of shit. And they wanted to take my sneakers. And it was like 6 of them. Like it was like 6 Puerto Rican guys. And I remember the CEO telling me, man, bro, just give them your sneakers, because I seen them cut somebody up and send them out of here on the stretcher just a couple of days ago. And I was like, well, if that's what it's got to be, then that's what it's got to be.
Yeah.
And I was ready to bang out with these 6 dudes by myself. And sure enough, God was watching over me, because there was a dude in that dorm that knew me, and I didn't see him. He was laying in his bunk at the time, and he heard my voice, and everybody called me KB. So he was like, yo, that sound like KB. He's like, KB, that's you? And I was like, who that? And it was this guy named Snow. And I was like, yo, Snow? He was like, yeah. So now I got an ally in there, right? And Snow was like telling the dude's name was Chico, who was like the leader of these 6 dudes that I was gonna fight. And he was like, nah, Chico, that's my man from the streets. Like, you can't get him. Like, he down with me.
Yeah.
And they were mad about that, but they respected Snow enough that they was like, oh, all right, he good people.
Yeah.
Let him go. And that was like my first experience with getting ready to get into some type of beef while I was locked up.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough that I got 6 months and 5 years probation, but I only did 4 months off of that. And I was fortunate enough that I didn't get into any more shit. I was fortunate enough that I was smart enough to join the college program while I was there.
Okay.
So they had a John Jay Law College. Is a big college in New York, but they used to have professors come into Rikers Island and teach classes. So I got into those classes, and that's pretty much how I spent the rest of my time in there before I came home.
Cool.
Yeah.
So was that the only time you got busted, or?
Nah, man, I never did any hard prison time, but I did a bunch of skid bids, man. I did a bunch of 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 4 months, 2 months. I did a bunch of that in various states, man. All, between New York, New Jersey. I caught another felony case in Connecticut that I did about 6 months off of. Paid a lawyer a nice grip of money to get me out of it, and they kind of let me come to court from the jail, told me to pack all my shit up when I come to court, because I wasn't even going back to the jail for processing, because the lawyer that I had was he was a prosecutor in the town that I got caught in prior to becoming a private lawyer. And he saw our case because we made the front page of the paper.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we made the front page of the paper in Bristol, Connecticut, to be exact. And he came to the jail and was like, I saw your case. He was like, what do you want to do? I was like, well, how much? He gave me a price, and I was like, yeah. And he was like, all right, I'll have you out in 6 months. He's like, no probation, no parole. He's like, but you got to leave the state of Connecticut and you can't come back.
No way.
And sure enough to his word, like 5 months and 3 weeks later, he called up the jail. They took me out my cell. They said, your lawyer's here, whatever. I went, got on the phone, talked to him, and he was like, just bring all your shit to court. He's like, you're leaving straight from the courthouse to go home. And sure enough, he kept true to his word, and he got me out of that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what changed? Like, so what made you get out of that stuff?
For me, it didn't change for a long time, man. It was back and forth, right? Like I didn't find out about the program of Narcotics Anonymous and a 12-step program until I was 29, right? And all of this stuff happened in my late 20s or mid 20s, I should say. And between Connecticut and New Jersey, New Jersey is where I did a lot of skid bids. I was constantly in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. From Essex County to Monmouth County, just constantly in and out, trying to just figure it out, right? But realizing that every time I decided to pick back up my drug of choice, I would end up back locked up, right? And then I had 4 years hanging over my head when I was 20, 28, 29. And while I was locked up, some people, you know how you get all your little jailhouse lawyers that tell you what to do. And they were like, yo, bro, see if you can get a program. You never had a program. See if you can get a program. And I was like, I don't think the judge is going to give me a program. This judge had already told me. He's like, if you come back in front of me, I'm sending you straight to prison. They was like, nah, just keep writing them letters and tell them you got the Salvation Army as a program that you can go to. So I reached out to the Salvation Army, like these jailhouse dudes told me. And they were like, yeah, if you can get it approved from the judge, we'll take you.
No way.
So I kept writing the judge. Now, mind you, I'm already sentenced and I'm ready to go up north. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go to the prison. But they hadn't transferred me yet. So I just kept writing the judge. Finally, one morning, CO comes. He's like, yo, you going to court? I'm like, bro, I'm already sentenced. What you talking about?
Yeah.
He's like, nah, you going to court. They want to see you in court. I'm like, all right. So I suit up. We go to court, and the judge is like, I've been getting your letters. He's like, you're very articulate. He seems like you really know what you want to do. It seems like you just really need to do something about your drug problem. He said, so I'm going to give you a break.
Oh, man.
He's like, I'm going to give you a break. He said, you go to this program. He said, and you complete it. If you don't complete it, that's it. You get in the 4 years.
Yeah.
So I went to the Salvation Army. It was a 10-month program. I stayed there for, I think I stayed there for like 19 months. Yeah. So it was a 10-month program. I completed it.
Yeah.
Then I went like on halfway house status. I started looking for jobs and all that kind of stuff. And I stayed there for like 19 months, man. And then I ended up leaving the program and moving back in with the girl that I was with at the time. And shortly after I did that, I started using again.
Yeah.
But luckily I didn't have to do that big. You know what I mean? But that was the first time that I found out about Narcotics Anonymous, when I was in that Salvation Army.
You guys used to go to meetings, or they made you go to meetings?
Yeah. Well, Salvation Army is more Christian based.
Yeah, more faith based.
Yeah, but they used to let us go out to meetings, and one of my guys, Sly, he's still in New York. He's got about 20 years clean now.
Awesome.
And he was like, "Yo, come to a meeting with me, bro." And I'm like, "You talking about meeting?" He's like, "Yo, just come with me." So I went with him, and he took me to my first NA meeting, man. And as soon as I heard the people sharing, I was like, "Oh shit." I was like, these are my people here. Like I can get with this. Finally, I'm hearing somebody talk that's gone through the same things that I've gone through. I identified with it immediately. And that was my first experience with Narcotics Anonymous. And I wish I could say that I stayed clean from that point on, but I didn't. But I always remembered that when I got there, they gave me a hug and they told me to keep coming back. Like I remembered that. Yeah. Right. So that was my first introduction to Narcotics Anonymous. Yeah.
So I know you came out here to California. When did you come out to California, and why?
I came out here in 2015, November 6th to be exact. That's my clean date. And it was, after a lot of years of back and forth and in and out and this program and this detox and this toxic relationship and all these different things that we do when we're out there using, finally, man, something clicked, right? And I was married at the time, and I always date. I've always dated like good girls that don't really know about the streets and all that kind of stuff, right? And I was married at the time, and my daughter was like 2 years old at the time, and I just made a decision, right? Like I had started using my drug of choice again, and I got into a big argument about it with my wife because she didn't know what was going on, and she was like, "How could I not see this?" And I'm like, "There's no way you could see it, like, because you know how manipulative and I'm that good. Like I was hiding it that well." And then finally she found out because of some finances and whatnot. And when she did, she was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I could have been manipulative and said, "I'm just going to go to a meeting and it'll be okay." Yeah. But I know myself. Yeah. And I knew better than that. I knew, for me, I'm the type of person, I need to sit down and take a breather. Yeah. Right? Because I run until the wheels fall off. I don't know how to stop, man. Yeah. So I knew that I needed to go to a program, and I was like, I was fortunate. She had great insurance. We were married at the time, and I came out here to California, man, and that was the beginning of my journey, man. You know, that was the beginning of it for me. It was I didn't know I was gonna stay. I had no idea I was gonna stay in California at all. I thought I was gonna come out here, get what we call a tune up.
Yeah.
You know, put some weight back on me. You know,
Yeah.
get looking good on the outside and all of that, and then go back and
Yeah.
and maybe try to do it again
Yeah.
and see if I could do it successfully.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate, man. I had a counselor in the rehab that I was in. Well, it wasn't even in the rehab. It was I went through a program called Solid Landings, and I was there for 2 months. And then after that, I moved over to Clean Path.
Yeah.
For my IOP.
That's where you met, right?
That's where we met. Yeah. And when I got there, I had a counselor there who I guess she kind of understood everything, right? Because she was on the administration side and I was on the patient side, but she had a boyfriend that was addicted, right? So she kind of knew what I was going through, and we kind of identified on that level. We were both in interracial relationships. We kind of identified on that level, and she was like, "No, she's like, I know what you need." So she was like the best counselor that I've ever had in my life, and she kind of milked my IOP status with the insurance company for like another 7 months, man.
Yeah, I remember you were at Joanne for a long time.
Yeah. So for like another 7 months, man, she kind of just kept telling him, no, he needs more help. He needs more treatment. He needs more treatment. He needs more treatment. And then somewhere around 9 months, it clicked. It just clicked. I woke up one day and I was just done. I was just done. Like some people call that a moment of clarity, you know, or a pink cloud or whatever people want to call it. But I don't know what it was. It was just something in me that just said, you know what, I don't want to go back and do the same things that I've been doing. And I want something different. And that was the start of my journey, man.
So, and I get that because I work in substance use treatment disorder also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people that come from the East Coast, they usually stay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because the weather and the
environment. Definitely, you know what I mean? The weather.
So I'm not shocked about that.
Yeah.
So that time you were in treatment out here, there was any slip ups or anything?
Nah, no slip ups, man. November 6th, 2015 is my clean date. That's the day that I stopped using. That's the day that I got off the plane here, and I have not found a reason to pick up since that day. And I went through, you know, my phases. When I got here, I was hanging out in the bars, I was hanging out at the pool halls, I'm hanging out at the little clubs, people are smoking and drinking around me, but I just knew that I was done. Right? Like they could offer it to me all they want, man. I just didn't want it anymore. I was finally done. But I guess after you run for 30 plus years, man, you know, something's gotta click. Right. And for me, I don't, like I said, I don't know what it was, man, but I just knew. I finally figured out and I finally knew that I can't put anything in my body because if I do, it goes overboard.
Yeah, no, for
right?
Sure.
Yeah. And it didn't matter if it was a drink, if it was some weed, it didn't matter what it would be. Like I just knew one thing is going to lead to something else and it's going to lead to something else. And I knew that I didn't want to go to jail in California because I didn't know nothing about the politics and the gangs and all of that, which is totally different from how New York was at the time when I was doing time. And I knew that I didn't want to do that. I knew I was like, nah, I'm out here alone. Like I don't know nobody like that. Like I don't want to. Like back east, it was different. It was like, oh, I could go to the county. I know when I get there, I'm gonna know somebody. You know what I mean? But out here, I didn't have that option. You know, so I knew it was something that I didn't want to do, man. And I guess that was kind of like something that helped me stay clean too. You know what I mean? Just knowing I didn't want to go through that. My first 3.5 years clean, man, I stayed in sober living, you know, and it was funny because I met a guy who used to go to a meeting and he was like, if you really want to stay clean, he was like, stay in sober living for like 3 years. And I thought he was crazy. I was like, what are you talking about? 3 years? Like, get out of here. Like I could have left sober living like a year after I was in there. I had enough money. I could have moved, but I was scared. I was scared. And I was like, you know what? I'm staying my ass right here. So I stayed in sober living. I was lucky and fortunate enough that I had gotten a good job like 2 months after I got here. I'm still at that same job.
Awesome.
You know, and I just knew, you know, like I needed to stay in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
right? And I did that. I did that for 3.5 years, man. And then finally, after 3.5 years, I got an apartment, with a roommate. And then like a couple of years later, I got my own place. You know what I mean?
That's right. Yeah, those sober livings
Yeah.
like help keep you accountable too.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like a
Yeah.
safe spot to come back to. You know what I mean?
It was.
But at the end of the day, like we're able to make our own choices. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like either you're done it or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So what's your life look like today?
Oh man, today, man, life is, we was just talking about it off camera about the things that we do when we get clean, the things that we never thought that we were going to be able to do, right? Because we were out there with no hope, you know what I mean? And it was nothing but despair, man. And since I've been clean, man, I like I said, I've been at the same job. I'm celebrating 10 years at my job.
Awesome.
I just celebrated 10 years clean in November.
Cool.
My job is amazing. I love what I do. I'm in the HVAC industry. I love what I do, man. I don't wake up every day going to work like damn, I hate my job. I hate getting out of bed.
Yeah.
But I don't hate going to work, and that's a plus for me.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because if I hated going to work, I would have probably gotten another job years ago. I have a great relationship with my kids. My younger daughters, I'm trying to, make the relationship even tighter, and sometimes it's kind of hard to do from a distance.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm still in California because I feel like this is the best place for me to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes, baby mothers or family members don't really understand that. They don't understand that. Like, look, this is not just me being in another state. I'm doing something that's saving my life every day.
It's a whole new life for you.
Yeah, and I need to be aware about what steps I make and what I decide to do. Right, I need to be always on top of my A game. So that's working a program, but also knowing like I don't want to be involved in XYZ, whatever that may be. And I've made a conscious effort to do that. Over the last 10 years, man, I made a conscious effort to keep good people in my life. I made a conscious effort to have a home group and make meetings and have panels and commitments and try to give back what's been freely given to me. So like I said, I never had any intentions on staying here. But for me, it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done.
And honestly, like seeing you out of the darkness, like when I first started going there, and to still see you there, you know what I mean? Like that brings joy to my heart. You know what I mean? Because
thank you.
I've seen like the progression of you getting involved and being in service and all that. You know what I mean? And you've probably been going to that meeting for like almost 10 years.
I've been going to that meeting for 10 years.
Yeah,
that was the first meeting that they took us to in rehab.
Yeah.
And ever since I went there with the noisemakers and the lights and everything, I was like, this is going to be my home group. And that's been my home group ever since.
Yeah, man. And that's really cool. And I know some of your sponsors, you know what I mean? And just to see the work you're doing now, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you, man. I mean, it's been a journey, man. And every day is a journey, man. Because unfortunately we live with a disease that lives in between here.
Yeah.
And it tells us things in our own voice that sounds good.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't have some type of toolkit with some tools in there that you can work with, when your mind starts running and running on its own accord and telling you all these different things, you might mess around and make the wrong decision. And I've seen it happen. Right? I know people that have had multiple years of clean time and worked a program and still decided to pick up one day because they thought it was a good idea. And I don't want that to be me, man. Because I don't feel like I don't know if I would come back from it.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if I would come back from it. And then the drugs are so different today than they were 10 years ago. Fentanyl wasn't a big thing.
Everything has fentanyl.
Everything has fentanyl in it now.
Weed, speed,
everything. Yeah. And it wasn't that way, 10, 15 years ago. So I don't want to take that chance. I don't want to take that chance, man. And just seeing people that have passed away clean, that makes my heart full. Like, okay, you had to pass away and that's sad, but you passed away clean, man.
Yeah, with dignity.
With dignity. Yeah, exactly. With dignity and pride, man. And that means a lot, man. And then, it was funny because I was at Out of the Darkness a few weeks back, and a guy came in and he was like, Kenny, and I'm like, yeah, and he told me his name, and I was like, I don't remember you, bro. He was like, we were in Clean Path together,
Who
and I
was
was,
it?
and it was a guy named Mitch,
Oh,
and
Mitch.
big, heavy set white guy.
Oh no, I thought it was. Yeah, I thought
Nah,
you were.
yeah, and
Yeah.
he was like, he's like, yo, I remember you, man. I remember you talking and sharing, man. And I always remembered the things that you talked about. And I was like, wow, bro. He was like, yo, it was like 9 years ago. And I was like, yeah, because I just took 10 years clean. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And he remembered me. And those are one of those good feelings that you get when somebody that you haven't seen in forever comes to
Mhm.
you and says, man, I remember what you said in that meeting all these years later. Right. And that's the power of the program, man.
Yeah.
Like you can say something that may not stop a person from using today, but when they finally get ready to stop, they remembered something that you said and they apply it to their program.
Yeah. And I remember like when I would start going to meetings, right? Like I used to be so nervous and scared to share, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I made it about myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my sponsor was telling me like it's not about you. It's about like someone that's barely new, that newcomer that might
Mm-hmm.
hear something that might help save their lives. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
And it's crazy, right? Because like we could just be living examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the way we live, the way we move, the principles and everything about the program, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one thing to know the literature, right? But it's one thing to live it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I really commend you for everything you're doing. Is there any suggestions or hope you want to give to our viewers out there?
Oh man. You know, I always try to tell people, man, I can't tell you what to do, right? I can't tell you how to live. I can't tell you if you feel like you're an addict or if you feel like you're not. Like I don't know the answers to those questions. But what I do know is that if you've been trying the same thing in a million different ways and you always keep getting the same result and you want a different result, come on over to Narcotics Anonymous,
Yeah.
man, and just give it a chance. Just apply yourself, take the simple suggestions, get a sponsor, go to meetings, be of service, work steps, those things, those little things that they tell you to do, just try them. Just try them. And if you try them with like just an ounce of faith, man, I guarantee you that things will change for you. It's not going to change overnight, but I guarantee you that if you apply the program to your life, things are going to change. And before you know it, you're going to look up 2, 3, 4 years later and be like, oh shit, like I used to be all the way back there. And
Yeah.
now I'm up here.
Yeah.
We buy homes around here. We get college degrees around here. People get married. They have kids and their parents that are accessible and a part of their kids'
Present.
lives. They're
Yeah.
present,
Yeah.
man. And that's priceless, man. Like for me, being a part of my parents' lives and being a part of my kids' lives, man, is absolutely priceless to me, man. Because there was a time when I wasn't able to do that, and I struggled so much to just be a part of their lives. But there were times that the disease took me away, man. It took me to another state, or it took me to a jail cell, or it took me to a program, or wherever it was. You know, I'm glad that I made those decisions back then, because those little times away from using probably saved my life
Yeah.
numerous times.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, so yeah, man. That's what I would tell people, man. Come around, give Narcotics Anonymous a chance, man, and share your story with somebody, man, because your story might save somebody's life.
Yeah. And remember, guys, nothing changes and nothing changes. If you want something
Absolutely.
different, you got to do different.
Absolutely.
So you got a podcast. You want to plug it?
Man, my podcast is called The Essence. It's under my umbrella, Tent TV. That's Tent TV. It's kind of like a play on my last name. It's Tindal Entertainment Television. I interview hip hop artists. I interview business people. I interview actors and producers and stuff like that. And I've been doing it for years. I started off as a journalist back in the 90s, back in New York. I worked for a major radio station, WBLS, back in New York for a few years. And then I went on to work for different magazines and different websites and stuff like that. And now today, man, I kind of interview people that I want to interview.
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to somebody saying, hey, you have to interview this person. No,
Yeah.
I seek out the people that I want to interview, whose story I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And you can check me out at Tent TV on Instagram, or you can check me out at KB Tindal. That's Tindal on Instagram as well.
Awesome. And remember, guys, that change is possible. We're living proof, right?
Absolutely.
And if you're hopeless, then hopefully this gave you some hope. And just know that redemption is possible.
Yes,
Fools get
indeed.
clean too.